The steel tariffs were bizarre, Rana, because they seem to initially affect, I mean, our biggest steel imports come from South Korea and Germany and Canada and Mexico, not from China.
Absolutely, and that's what makes you so worried about this trade action. It feels like the president just got up and kind of thought of something in the morning, tweeted it out, and didn't really look at the implications. I think that the lessons, interestingly, that we need to take from China are think long term. You know, China is true. China's trade practices are unfair. What they do well is they plan for the long term. They have an industrial strategy and industrial policy. Actually, that's something a lot of European nations have as well. And what the president should be doing is thinking regionally, thinking about how to get closer to Canada, Mexico, how to create the kind of synergies that are in that bloc and may be appropriate for this period in time.
You wrote a column which struck me as very, very smart. You just came back from China and you said you were struck by the degree to which the Chinese model is working and the American model is not. Explain what you meant.
This is the striking thing to me, that China has their Vision 2025 program. They want to be national champions in all kinds of industries, including robotics and AI and things like that. Obviously, anyone who goes there and you see the subways, you see the infrastructure, you see the skyscrapers, and they are moving forward, and they are driving forward using a form of state-directed capitalism, different than our system. And we're in gridlock. Nothing's happening in Washington. We don't have any initiatives. Perhaps Rana's right, we should be doing it locally. But the contrast between China just driving forward incredibly effectively and us essentially standing still is very striking.
You know, I think that this actually picks up on another thread in the news right now, which is the correction in the tech stocks and the way technology is going to roll out. There may be a real new regionalism here. I mean, China has made it very clear that they want to be independent of U.S. technology in the next 10 years. They have their own very large market that really, I think, could be a standalone high-growth market. We need a strategy.
And they've blocked American tech companies.
I mean, that is absolutely true. But we don't have a coherent strategy here at home about, you know, what is the digital economy? What does it look like? What are the new regulations and policies that should be in place? How should we train up a 21st century workforce? We've heard a lot of window dressing about all of these things, and we've seen policies that go in one direction and then lurch in another. But we need a real unified plan if we're going to keep up and remain competitive in the highest growth areas.
On that tech burst, do you think, I mean, to Trump's claim, is the economy... are we witnessing the deflation of a tech bubble, you think?
I actually think it's a big issue, and I think we may have reached a peak for big tech stocks. I think that Europe, for example, is rolling out very interesting new privacy rules in May. They're really looking at how should we regulate AI. I mean, artificial intelligence, which is going to account for a lot of growth, not just in technology, but in most industries going forward, is two things. It's data and it's quantum computing. Now, data is the problem, right? When we look at election manipulation and the backlash over Facebook, we have to find a balance between privacy regulation and being able to stay ahead in these industries. We need a real national conversation about that.
And it does strike me again, Steve, coming back to your point, we can't pass a budget, we can't make investments in infrastructure, we can't make investments in science. Is it possible that the chaotic, open, freewheeling system that America has is just going to underperform?
This is the big question, Fareed. I think we're actually literally witnessing a test between the liberal democracies that have basically defined the post-World War II order and a form of state-directed capitalism in China. India obviously has its own system, which is also somewhat different. And we're going to see which one kind of wins. But right now, and there's a whole bunch of books that are coming out on this now. I mean, people are really worried about this, and I'm worried about it. Right now, I think you have to, I would argue, I'm not in favor of giving up my civil liberties, but on a purely economic basis, I would have to argue that state-directed capitalism is doing a better job than our liberal democracy.
All right, we'll have to come back and talk about this more. Thank you both.